प्रणवार्धाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। Sri Ramana Gita is a scripture containing the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. The Upanishads set out the vision of truth of Vedic seers. Likewise, Ramana's teachings were not the product of the logical inference or interpretation of the existing scriptures, but were based on his direct experience of the self, his self-knowledge. Various doubts are expressed, often with surprising persistence, perhaps because for the seeker the reply means everything of value in life. These questions and answers, numbering 300, along with verses of praise, were composed by Ganapati Muni in such exquisite Sanskrit poetry that the parallel of Bhagavad Gita composed by sage Krishna Dvaipayana to set out the message of Sri Krishna comes to the mind. The other famous Gitas like Ashtavakra Gita, Avadhuta Gita, Uttara Gita and Ribhu Gita set out the truth of Advaita, of oneness, of all life. Ramana Gita not only expounds the truth, but it also serves as a guide for wise living, a guide for revolutionizing mental attitudes, for letting in the gentle southern breeze of peace and equanimity, and for filling one's being with a natural joy. The parallel with Bhagavad Gita continues in this respect and also in the form and arrangement of the text. Ramana Gita is also set out in 18 chapters in the dialogue form. It is said that in the days of yore, Siva, as Dakshinamurti, the great god, chose to teach a handful of disciples, just 4 of them, the way of self-knowledge. The Chandogya Upanishad talks of Sanat Kumara, regarded as the foremost of the knowers of the self, teaching just one hungry seeker, the sage Narada. For what matters is earnestness, a total involvement, an exclusive concern to find out the truth. In this century, such a blessing fell on a small band of persons to whom it was given to learn the science of the heart. They learnt this from Sri Ramana Maharshi. The setting was the Virupaksha cave and Skandashramam on the holy Arunachala hill in the years 1913 to 1917. The questioners were Ganapati Muni, Daivarata, Kashni, Yoganatha, Kapali, Visalakshi, Vaidarbha and Amritanatha. Just 8 of them, but they have placed generations of spiritual seekers in their debt by covering the whole gamut of what matters for those concerned with self-knowledge. The central figure was Maharshi, towering and breathtaking in the beauty of his message. The air was thick with the rich aroma of his blissful presence, the Ramana Lahari. The fragrance was not of the moment like the fragrance of a flower or the scent of incense, for the perfume of Ramana's teachings is for all the ages, since the search for truth is as eternal as truth itself. Silence, supreme silence, would be broken by the gentle and most apt words from Ramana. Crowds of brilliant ideas would queue up behind his inspired words, which came from the depth of his direct experience. Replies would seldom be immediate. The penetrating glance of grace transferring the spiritual force, would proceed to enlighten the questioner, and through him every nook and corner of the vital spiritual problem. Ramana Gita is a pathfinder in many ways. The matter dealt with covers such core subjects like paramount duty, science of the heart, mind control, self-inquiry, cutting the knot, to mention just a few. A bird's eye view of the contents will help in understanding the profound significance of the work for a meaningful life. Ramana emphasizes that the purpose of all spiritual practice is to discover the natural state. What is this natural state? It is a state when the mind is silent, when bliss inundates, and the consciousness shines in all its fullness. Why natural? It is termed natural because it is one's own, not given, and therefore it cannot be taken away. What hides it? The externalization of the mind prevents awareness of the natural state. By appropriate spiritual practice, the mind must be made to turn within. This is one's paramount duty. The best method for turning the mind within is self-inquiry. What constitutes self-inquiry? It is an inquiry about the subject, about the I. When attention is so focused on the I, it would be seen to be the center of the mind. Other thoughts can exist only in relation to it. The I thought and the mind are understood to be identical. Self-inquiry also reveals that what we call the mind is only a phenomenon of the waking state. It is non-existent in deep sleep. It rises on waking and sinks when sleep overtakes. Hence the necessity for search for its source. This search would lead one to the spiritual heart from which all thoughts spring. Ramana has explained in great detail the working of the spiritual heart and how its consciousness spreads to the mind and thereafter permeates the whole body. The analogy of the sun and the moon is given to bring out the essential relationship between the spiritual heart and the mind. The heart is the source of consciousness, and the mind only reflects it. If the mind consciously merges in the heart by vigilant self-inquiry, a new way of life is thrown open. It is a heart-based life instead of a mind-centered life with all the limitations arising from attachment. Then it does not make any difference if one is in a jungle hermitage or in a London flat, for a steady river of bliss will flow through all actions. The A to Z of such a free and joyous life has been set out by Ramana so simply and so directly in Ramana Gita that one regrets the wasted years of spiritual wandering at wrong doors. End of part 1. Arunachala Siva, Arunachala Siva, Arunachala Siva, Arunachala, Arunachala Siva, Arunachala Siva, Arunachala Siva,